What's up, everybody? Jason back again with another episode of Vendors, where I get to sit down with the leading wedding industry professionals and have casual one-on-one conversations, and we get to talk about all the questions that couples like you are dealing with during your wedding planning. Today, I'm sitting down with wedding coordinator Ashley Radosav from Ashley Nicole Events, and we're going to talk about wedding planning, wedding coordination, all the stuff that leads up to your big day. Let's get it started. Ashley, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am super stoked to talk with you. So before we get into everything, tell us who you are and what do you do?
My name is Ashley. I am a wedding coordinator here in Chicago. I serve nationwide, but my heart is in Chicago.
How many weddings have you done? How long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, so I've been involved in the wedding industry for 12 years. I kind of calculated at one point almost 200 weddings. Mm-hmm. So that involves like me as a catering manager, that involves me as a venue coordinator and as a independent wedding coordinator as well. Because I have my hand in so many different areas, it gives me the opportunity to experience a lot of different types of events. So while weddings are my joy, I've done a little bit of everything. I sometimes feel that wedding planners get a bad rap, planners, coordinators, whatever, where they come across as super bossy and they're going to tell a videographer how to do their job. Where, because I've worked in the different areas, I'm acutely aware of if this groomsman or best man's speech runs 10 minutes too long, the filet in the back has been cooked at 2 p.m. and it's now 7:30 and it's drying out as we speak. So because I've worked in all those different areas, I'm able to help the brides and grooms create a timeline that allows a lot of buffer room for things to occur, unexpectedly, but also I tell the vendors, I do a little intro email to them and I'm like, here's 3 fast facts you need to know about me. I'm not gonna tell you how to do your job. I've done this for a really long time, so I'm not some newbie. And then I also work as a team mentality. So how I can help you, whether it's grab you a Coke, at the reception because you're doing something, or gathering a wandering family member for photos at the church. Like, I am all in to help you help our client make a great day.
The big difference between like an amateur vendor versus a pro vendor is the idea that we're all working as a team, but we're not out there for ourselves. We're not out there for our own glory. Right. We're good is if we all do good together.
If we all play nicely in the sandbox,
right.
The wedding will be great. So much easier and nicer.
So you brought up a really good point about coordinator and planner. Now, I see those names used synonymously. I use them with different meanings. What is the difference or similarities between a wedding planner and a wedding coordinator?
Yeah, I sometimes misuse them myself because they are so synonymous. So a wedding planner would be someone who is going to be involved with you every single step of the way. They are literally guiding you through, this month we're going to focus on invitations, and I'm going to take you to 5 different venues, and I'm going to go with and explain everything to you. And they're very much hand-holding the couple through the process in a much more involved and intimate experience of planning your wedding, where it's really you're trusting someone else to show you and provide you the things that you want to believe are going to be the best fit for you. Planners are great. There's a great need for wedding planners, and then a coordinator, on the other hand, is going to be someone who is a little bit more hands-off. They're going to be at a little bit of a lower price point just because they're not as involved in the planning process. And they will be with you the day of the wedding. So a planner and a coordinator the day of the wedding are going to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
They're going to help you bustle your dress. They're going to help you send you up the aisle to meet your spouse. They're going to tell you when to do your first dance and all of those important milestone
1,000 other things that never get seen either.
Right, that nobody ever knows about. They're gonna do the same exact thing. It's how much help you need prior to the day of your wedding is the difference between a coordinator and a planner.
You consider yourself more of a coordinator. And I think a lot of people, when they think of wedding coordinators, they think of, you're just going to show up to our wedding day. And
I wish that
right? But obviously there's an intense more amount of work. Even if you're not planning everything from the get-go, you're still doing an immense amount of work.
So I recently calculated how much work goes into coordination, and I anticipate with everything that a coordinator does, it's at least 100 hours worth of work, and that's only being involved in a little part of the wedding. That's not
the whole planning.
That's not the whole planning. So think about how many hours, and when you calculate months of a wedding planner's life is invested in that one couple, multiply that times all of their other clients, that's a lot of time being invested into someone's wedding. Where a coordinator, I spend about an average of, and it's an average, so some are more and some are less, about 100 hours per wedding. And that's including the 12 to 13 hours I'm putting in on the actual wedding day.
So can you go through like some of the stuff that you have to do even before the wedding day?
Yeah, so the first thing I do as a coordinator is I ask, well, you want them to hire you, of course. Helpful, minor detail. But the first thing I ask for is give me all of the contracts you've already agreed to, because as part of my responsibility is to have your back. I am your best advocate the day of the wedding and through the process. So I ask to read all of the contracts, mainly because I'm not involved, because I'm taking that step back in the going to meet the videographer or the DJ or the band or whatever. So I want to know what you signed up for, as well as making sure I know what they're promising to provide you with. So sometimes I see wrong wedding dates on contracts. Sometimes, and maybe that's because they didn't know when they were getting married. They just wanted to make sure they booked that vendor. So they put down June 2020, when in reality, they're now getting married in September of 2020. I come in, I read all the contracts, I highlight things that seem a little off to me, but I just want to have a conversation about what this line item means. Or, hey, do you realize that you're going to provide a photo booth a $250 tip at the end of the night? Much like what a wedding planner would do, we're going to now focus on invites, or we're going to focus on the DJ. I send that to them electronically and say, these are the things you should focus on now. I'm going to check in with you, in about a month to make sure that things are going well. Feel free to email me anytime with questions, because I'd rather mitigate something 6 months before your wedding than coming in the week of the wedding saying, oh my God, this is not going to work. What were you thinking? Of course they don't know what they're thinking. Right. They've never done this before, but having a professional on their side to walk them through and say, hey, don't forget this, or we're going to focus on that then, or, whatever the situation might be. So that's kind of how I, as a coordinator, come in instead of being physically with the client at all times.
When a couple starts doing the research to find their wedding coordinators, there's all this information online of, here's the 20 questions you should always ask every wedding coordinator. And of course, we've all seen those questionnaires. We've all seen those lists.
Big magazines.
Right. And some of the questions are so archaic.
Here's a question. Yeah. Will you be there to tell us when to do our first dance? No, I'm gonna go on a lunch break. I'm gonna have a Big Mac in the back room and just like chill, have a cocktail or two,
It's a very specific sandwich, by the way. It's like, yeah, in my contract, it says Big Mac.
It says Big Mac.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you have all these questions.
I'm going to be there for every moment that you want to be there. Kind of like a photographer being told, take a picture of the first kiss, take a picture of the cake. Those are clearly, yes, those are all things that all of us professional vendors will absolutely do for you. That's just in our nature to provide you those things, because we all know you want them.
So with that in mind, what are some good questions that couples should be asking?
When a client comes to me and wants to, potentially work with me, I tell them questions that they should be asking, because I always like to know that they're interviewing other coordinators as well. I don't want to be their first and only, because there's a lot of personalities that you need to work with. So I always recommend, whether it's a detriment to myself or not, say, hey, go talk to someone else too, just to make sure that you are 100% comfortable, whether it's any vendor, photo, video, whatever. So the questions I tell them to ask are, what do you do in case you get sick? What do you do for a family emergency? Like unusual questions like that. Anyone can get sick at any time. I could get hit by a car tomorrow, and my wedding in June, I have a backup plan in place for them so that they're 100% taken care of. Because while I have a life too, and I have a family and I do things on my own, my priority as a business owner is to you, my client. And that's the awesome thing about working with a professional, that you have a system in place to take care of those last minute emergencies. Along the lines of knowing who you're working with, are you working with a big box company that's going to have someone sell you the package, and then have someone else be there with you the day of the wedding, and then someone else wrap up the wedding with you after the fact? But on the other hand, are you working with a small business owner who's trying to put food on her table, and she has her company or his company's reputation at heart. Like every decision they do, they have to worry about how it affects them as a business. And the person that's walking you through the process will be with you the day of the wedding, will be the same person, you know, delivering you your images after the wedding, and will have edited those images, and not just farming that out to someone who doesn't really care or doesn't have that emotional connection with the client.
Absolutely. Everyone I've ever worked with at this level, our mentality is never like there's competition, like, I'm going to get that couple before you do. It's we work with each other and we know each other very well.
It boggles my mind when people say competition. I don't want every wedding in Chicago. I can't physically do every wedding in Chicago. There are thousands of weddings every weekend. And while I might not be the best fit for you, let's say, I know that my friend Jenny, and I call her my friend, she's my competition. If you want to put it out there, we are competing for the same type of event, but I would rather have that client be served by someone who is a better fit for them.
So not only do you do these 90 extra hours that people don't see outside of the wedding day, but can you touch on some of the things that happen on a wedding day that no one ever sees?
Everything that a bride or groom or a mom walks into the day of the wedding has been set up by someone. You know, the room most likely had been used the night before. So we're flipping tables is a term in the industry, you know, flipping tables, flipping the room. We're setting all of those things up that you as a mom or a brother or a sister, you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry to make sure that every table has a knife and a fork and a spoon and a butter knife. Like that's taken care of. You don't have to worry about who's setting up the escort cards, you know, for you at the cocktail hour reception. That making sure that the flowers are getting delivered on time or that someone is putting the flowers on your cake. Those are all things that are going on behind the scenes that just happen. Like you just walk in and it's done. You know, you don't have to worry about that type of stuff. Prepping everyone for things that they need to be doing or telling them, hey, in 5 minutes, you're gonna get up and do your first dance. Like those are just things that just happen when you have a professional. Those are things that do not just happen when you have your mom planning or your friend planning.
Well, because your mom and your friends should be enjoying the day with you.
And they should be talking to their friends and family and they should be enjoying themselves as well. They should not be, oh my God, what happens next? Or, stress. Gosh, just less stress. Less stress.
So not only do you have to like prepare everything and make sure everything goes on time and make sure everything goes out smoothly, but problems arise. And my mentor back in film school taught me this mentality, and I've used it ever since. And especially in the wedding industry, it works like a charm that no matter what project you're on or what job you're on, whatever, something will go wrong.
It always does.
No matter how much detailed planning you do. And what I always tell my couples is that something's gonna go wrong, but your job is to have a good time. And A, it's not gonna bother you. And B, you're not gonna know about it.
Right.
Because it all happens outside of your happiness.
Right.
So my mentor called it fixing the fuck up. So what is an example where you had to fix the fuck up?
I could write a book. We're human, right? Someone's gonna drop your champagne flute or something's gonna happen. Things like that have happened, you know, and you just roll with it. No guest is gonna know that you had a monogrammed toasting flute versus a standard banquet hall, you know, plain toasting flute. I like to tell clients, don't worry about it. Enjoy the day. You only get one chance to get married for the first time once.
Right.
Don't ruin it by stressing over something that you have no control over in the moment.
You're getting married. Your family's there. Your friends are there.
Never again in your lifetime, most likely, will you have all of those people that you love in one room together. Right. You're gonna have your college friends and you're gonna get together. You're gonna have your high school friends and your family, but never in one room will all of those people be there. Yeah. And like your grandma, she might not be here next year. Don't let the champagne flute that broke ruin everything. Spend time with your grandma, you know, dance with your grandpa.
Yes. Something that all couples have to deal with when they first start planning, and you should, is planning a budget.
Oh, yes. Because I mentioned coordinators are a little bit on the lower price point, most of the people that I know, because of my network of people, we all openly share what we charge. You can find a coordinator for as little as $1,000, and you can find a month of, partial planning coordinator for up to $5,000. It just totally depends. I'm right in the middle. I charge $2,500, and I think that that's a sweet spot that most coordinators are going to be right around that $2,300, $2,500 price point. While the sticker shock is there, and rightfully so, it is a lot of money to spend. I educate my clients that if you're looking at any vendor across the board and it's not at least $1,000, do a double take. Like, are they brand new? Is there, a significant discount they're giving you to get you under that? But every service in a wedding in Chicago, at least, is going to cost you at least $1,000. And if you found someone below that and you really connect and they are going to be the best person for you, you keep them and hang on to them so hard because they are a unicorn and you just hit the jackpot.
It just goes to show, like, you can find them, but the chances of finding them are going to be
on your own.
Yes.
And the nice thing about working with a coordinator or a planner or whoever is knowing that they can find you someone at a price point that you feel comfortable spending. So while it might be embarrassing to talk about budget is a very secretive word, I feel, and I think there's a lot of shame and embarrassment around.
I think so too, and I don't think there should be.
No, and just be honest and transparent. Like, if you were to tell me that your budget for flowers was only $1,200 or only $600, I'm gonna find you the best person that can do exactly within reason what you're asking for the price point you're comfortable spending. Now, if you tell me you're looking to spend $10,000 on flowers, your pool of qualified candidates just grew significantly. There is a good person for every wedding at every price point. It's just knowing how to find it and not wasting your time trying to find it either. Have a hard conversation, like have a really uncomfortable conversation with whether it's your fiance or your parents or your fiance's parents and say, we're having a wedding. What is everyone's financial ability to contribute? And maybe it's nothing. Maybe your family cannot contribute a dime, and that's totally fine. Have that conversation so you're aware up front what everyone is able to or not able to contribute. And then what I tell my clients is open up a separate bank account specifically for your wedding. Don't let it be for your rent payment the next month, only wedding. So if your mom and dad were fortunate enough to give you $10,000, let's say, and that's a very hefty, nowadays, most couples are paying for things themselves.
I was gonna say most of the couples I deal with
pay for themselves. But any amount of money, whether it's $500 or $10 or $20, $100,000 someone gives you, put it in that bank account, and then it's almost like free money. You're not worried about your rent payment next month to pay for your DJ because it's in a separate fund. Shove $25 a week into your wedding planning account because you will have those unexpected expenses. You will have, oh shoot, I forgot we need candles on our table too. Let me run to Michael's and go spend $50 on candles, where that could be a financial burden to someone who hasn't budgeted for that. Weddings are always stressful about the money. It's not always because my Uncle Tom doesn't like my Aunt Sally anymore and they can't sit at the same table. We're well beyond that point. We know we can't sit next to each other. That's fine. It's how am I gonna pay for my XYZ vendor? Or, oh, you mean to tell me I have to tip them at the end of the night too? I didn't plan on that. That's putting me out of my budget. And now the wedding planning is miserable because they're so focused on the money. And it shouldn't be that way. Have that hard conversation up front and then just be realistic about it. You can have a beautiful wedding at any price point.
Absolutely.
Just because you can't afford that Pinterest-worthy wedding that you saw in a magazine once doesn't mean that your wedding is gonna be any less special because you spent $100,000 less. It's gonna be special because you're marrying the person you wanna spend the rest of your life with.
Bingo.
And it all circles back to what's important. The color pink you have as your napkin is not gonna, a hill of beans, make a difference because you're marrying your soon-to-be spouse.
So when a couple comes to a wedding coordinator and sits down, what are some things a couple should be aware of with the contract?
I walk my clients through a contract with me just to make sure that they understand everything that I'm asking for. Like the 2 or 3 big bullet points that I try to focus on with them is be a nice human being to me, and I will be a nice human being back to you. Rule 2, feed me. I'm with you all day. All I ask is for a meal.
I think food goes a long way though.
It does. In my contract, it also says like act of God, I get injured, illness, whatever. You can expect to have someone of equal experience come in and fill your day.
How long in advance should a couple be booking with a coordinator versus a planner?
Because I only focus on month of coordination, I've booked them 2 years in advance. It totally depends, because I'm only working with clients on that month of coordination, where a planner will need the opportunity to work with them for a year and a half. So most coordinators will say for a wide variety of reasons, and not one reason is better than the other, but if they do both full service and month of coordination, they will hold off on booking a coordination client, meaning like a month of, day of client, until closer to the day, because they could theoretically book a higher paying client for full service. So they'll say, reach out to me 6 to 8 weeks before your wedding.
That's so short. I mean, I guarantee someone's thinking this right now. It's like 6 to 8 weeks is a long time. It's like when you start planning,
really
that goes
not.
by really fast.
Because there's so much you cannot do until 2 to 3 weeks before your wedding.
Right.
So then now you're just compounding things.
Exactly.
And I'm more stress-free. I like less stress in my life.
It makes it a lot easier. And that's the one thing I always strive to every couple I ever talk with is get a coordinator, get a planner, because it will take away any stress. And like any vendor is there to take away your stress.
Here's the thing that happens if you don't have a coordinator or a planner. Your photographer becomes your planner. And that's not fair to them. They have a photo and video have so much responsibility on their plate the day of the wedding. They only get one shot to get your first kiss. And if a grandma or an aunt or a reader at the ceremony is interrupting while they're trying to do something, you're not going to get that shot again. You can't redo the ceremony's first kiss. You can fake the shot later, but it's not the same. You don't get that same emotion in the couple's eyes with each other.
Something I wanted to bring up, especially with a coordinator like yourself, is Pinterest boards.
I love them and I hate them.
Yes, so this is exactly what I wanted to say. I think Pinterest is an amazing tool to use, but a very dangerous hope board. So can you talk a little bit about the dangers of or pros and cons?
A bride and groom, rightfully so, you don't know, doesn't understand that styled shoot of a wedding could cost $100,000 if you had to pay for it. You're seeing 2, 3, 4 images that are gorgeous, and they're gorgeous for a reason, because they set expectations, they set trends. When you walk into your wedding, you imagine as a bride or groom that you're gonna see that Pinterest table. You're gonna have a marble slab of escort card beautifully wrapped around a napkin, and then that's gonna be on a salad plate, which will be on a dinner plate, which will then be underneath a charger. And a lot of people don't even know what any of this stuff is. And then they're gonna see everything. But if you have a buffet wedding, you're not gonna have a salad plate on your table. You're not gonna have a dinner plate on your table. And people don't think about that. If you have a family style dinner, you're gonna have to make space for giant platters of food, so you can't have a giant centerpiece in the middle of a 60-inch round table. It's just not physically possible. As a coordinator, I'm not designing their wedding. I'm not telling them every piece of every puzzle to put together. If they ask, I can give my opinion, but it gives me an idea of, you love glitz and glam, but here's some wood slices and burlap. That doesn't go with glitz and glam. So let's hone in on what your vision actually is, and then we can carry on. Use Pinterest to find out what you like, but find out what you don't like really is the bigger aspect of that, to say, I don't like rhinestones on everything, so let's not go with that. And then show it to the professionals and say, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if this is totally what it's going to look like or fully realistic for my budget, but how can we take what I like and turn it into my budget? Let's show some pictures that you're trying to describe to me in words, and let's use pictures to do that, but then realize that that's not what your wedding is going to look like. You don't want to copy someone else. You don't. You want to be authentically you.
And you'll be happier in the long run.
And if you want to get married in jeans and a t-shirt, while it might not be my taste, you do you. Don't try to copy the black tie affair that your guests are going to walk away and say, whose wedding were we at?
Exactly.
That made no sense to me.
You brought up a really good point about style shoots, and that's something that we haven't talked about on this show yet. When you're looking on photos online or video online, it's very easy to find footage or shots of immaculate setups. There are things called style shoots, and this is where we get vendors from every area to come together, and they bring their absolute A game for free.
Yeah, it costs them money.
Yes, but I think couples need to be aware of that if it's a style shoot, that's not from a wedding day.
Right, and you can usually spot the difference.
Yes. if you're integrated into this world where we look at pictures all the time and go, okay, well, unless that was a $200,000 wedding, that floral decoration was not at a wedding. How do you handle multiple bookings, or do you?
I don't. I'm one person. I can only be as good as I think I am. I can only be in one place at one time. So I typically will work on a first come, first serve basis. I say, you book me for a Saturday, I'm probably gonna have to do a rehearsal with you on Friday night. As a small business owner, I set my expectations high for myself, so I don't wanna have to pawn off a rehearsal because it's not as important on someone else, because it's your wedding weekend. I try to do one wedding a weekend, and that way then I can have a day off, because a wedding hangover is a very real thing for a vendor.
I think one thing that every couple has the experience of when they're looking at vendors is the sticker shock. Can you explain where that money's all going? Because I think a lot of people will think, oh, you're charging me $2,500 just to show up for this one day. And you've already talked about the 100 hours before that, but there's a ton more stuff that goes into this. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, I reinvest in education. Super important. I stay current in the industry. I go to networking events, Chicago parking, that adds up, So websites are expensive. I just spent $4,000 on a website rebrand. I am spending another $2,000 on an email campaign update so that my brides can get educational information from me, and that my latest blog post actually reaches people instead of just gets lost in the interwebs. So that's $6,000 right there.
For two things.
For two things,
Yeah.
in just the internet, but it's super important. How are brides gonna find you if you don't have a website? Exactly. And if you don't pay for secure hosting, or you don't have a contract service, that can make payment easier? Because people are like, okay, well, yeah, I signed your contract electronically. That was really convenient for me as a client. And then, oh, you mean I can pay you online too? And I can just enter in my credit card? That's also really convenient, but there's also fees associated with that. Monthly fees, computer software, InDesign, for instance, to make a business card. It's investing in my company. I don't take a paycheck.
Right.
Rarely do I get any of this money back to myself. I'm reinvesting in my clients. I'm reinvesting in gift boxes for them. Yep. Creating that great customer experience. Like you did my wedding. I still remember that you gave me a bottle of champagne and chocolate covered strawberries. It was those little touches that set you apart as a vendor from another videographer that might not have done that. But 4 years, 5 years later, I remember that you sent me a bottle of champagne from Geneva Wine Cellars. Yeah. That can all add up. So it's reinvesting and staying current with education. That's so important, is me being certified, me having insurance, me being...
And insurance, I think most people don't realize, but...
I carry $2 million of business insurance in case my car breaks down and goes through the building of your venue. I gotta pay for that.
If someone were wanting a wedding coordinator or wanting a planner, but they wanted to save some money, what's some best ways they can save some money and still get your services?
A couple really big ways are cut your guest list. As bad as that sounds, narrowing down the number of people you have to spend food on, alcohol packages on, that's a really great way to save money. Work with professionals that can refer you other professionals that might be able to offer you a discount. I don't work with any vendor that gives me a kickback. No one pays me to be on their list, and that's a thing, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. I educate my clients that the people that I refer them to, if they need a DJ or whatever, they don't pay me. And then they find out that, oh, they're paying me, so are they really good? I work with minted.com to do invitations, and I get 25% off, So there's ways that you can do a really beautiful invitation suite with a custom company that can do that beautifully for you, but then your programs, maybe you can save money on your programs. So working with a vendor has connections, and those connections can help save you money as well.
Ashley, thank you so much for coming out today to sit down with us and to educate us.
Thanks for coming to my house. I really appreciate it.
I like that I told you, thank you for coming out. Thank you for letting me invade your space.
Into my house by my nice, beautiful fire here.
If someone was so inclined to reach out to you, to talk to you, to pick your brain, to work with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
They can find me online. I have a website, ashleynicoleeventsinc.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and I sort of have a YouTube channel that I'm kind of tossing around the idea with. So I have 3 videos on there. You should find them and watch them. They're pretty funny. But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and my website.
Cool. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
We hope this episode of Vendors helps you on your wedding planning. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and to share to make sure you and your fellow planning couples don't miss a single episode. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to check out our entire conversation in the podcast. And be sure to check out all of our episodes about these amazing wedding industry professionals. We'll see you next time on Vendors. Vendors is produced and edited by Night Owls Media. More information can be found at nightowlsmedia.com.